Yes. All right. So we're picking up from yesterday. Actually, before I dive into this, let me just say welcome to my live stream. I am building a full stack website from scratch using MongoDB, ExpressJS, Angular, and Node.js. We're currently working in the Node.js slash, well, we're really working in in three um, code environments at the same time. We're working with MongoDB, we're working with Express, and we're working with Node.js. So Express is really this whole router thing. That's what sets up our REST endpoints, which is just a location, a relative location based upon your website. So if it's like williamennals.com, that's going to be slash projects. And when you go there, that's how you're going to get your data. So that's what all this stuff is doing. So now, so far, we've been able to set up our project our projects database to create a project. We've been able to get a single project from the database. So whether this is a project that we want to edit or a project that you want to manipulate in some way, um, and then there now we have it a way we can get all the projects. So this would more likely come into play when you're looking at like your user dashboard and you want to see what's going on. You want to see the state and you see all the statuses of your projects, like I have in my design. And I'll open the design up in a second, and we can see how much how far we've come since we started this. And so moving on, we have our patch, and this is where we make our actual update. This is more so for presentation. So this will be where you show your project to somebody else. So similar to that projects page that I have in my designs. And then we also have the delete, so you can delete a single project by its ID, or you can delete a slew of projects. And honestly, this is kind of redundant because if the ID is there, it's going to delete it. So I really don't even need this endpoint because it's all accounted for here. So I'm actually going to just go ahead and delete that. And then what I have to do now is I need to add some of this flexibility that we had here over to the post router. So, and actually, before I dig into this, I'm going to get nodemon running. So npm run dev. So, one second. I'm getting a message from from YouTube saying that my stream bitrate is acting up. So I'm gonna take a second and just configure that and see whatever that was saying. I clicked it, seemed like it's good now, so I think we're good to go. I'm gonna try to launch Adobe XD in the background, or maybe not, and try to get this Postman up so we can check out what we're doing. Because the next thing that we have to do is we have to go in, look at Postman, and see which endpoints we already have set up, so that way I can remove the duplicate delete that I was showing before, actually, and then the one we just deleted from here. And then I also need to start configuring this one up, so I need to modify this just a bit. So let me go ahead and do that. Postman's still coming up, booting up, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that opportunity to modify the post router. So here you see, instead of find by ID and delete, we're just going to do delete many. And the delete many, it should delete one or more. So let's go ahead and just check to see if you can delete just one. So we're going to do delete many. And then as before, this is going to be on the body because we're not sending an individual post ID through the browser anymore. We're just sending that individual we're just sending that array of IDs, and then we don't even need this anymore because we're not going to be using that find by ID and delete method. So we clean that up and it looks really nice now, and it's very simple. Actually, I was off by the syntax, so let me fix that syntax. So it's had to be an object. So we're saying we're looking for something in the database that on their ID underscore ID. We're looking for something that matches this array, which we can see. Hopefully we can see. Okay, it's just showing up on another window. So we can see that here, I think. I think because I haven't run it, it's gotta set itself up again. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create that new request here, and then we're gonna say delete post mini posts, and I'm gonna make sure I add that to the right project, and I'm gonna save that. So now I also need to change this to a delete request, and then what I can do is I can do localhost, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna just use this and just change it to post. So localhost posts. I think I have post with an S now, and then I don't have to do anything else. Let me just verify that. Yep, post with an S. And then I need to modify the body to take on that object. So I need to send in this JSON object, and I'm going to go in here. Excuse me. Jeez. Go in here and configure this ID. And also I need to boot up Robo3T so that way we can look and see what's going on in our database. So let me go ahead and boot that up, and that'll just take a second. And while that's booting up, we'll take a look at what the heck? Oh, there we go. Okay. So now I should have Adobe XD open as well. So now we can go in here and look at this. So what we've done, well, what I've done in Adobe XD is I'm going to do the presentation just because we can kind of go through and see how it's going to look, just in case you haven't seen it before. So we have to create this this thing here, and you see this is like a post. So this is the image, this is the title, this is the time created, and this is the description, and then this is a button. So we don't have to do that. But actually this is better shown if I start it here. So let me start it here because I really want to see this dashboard. So let's say we signed in, and we're going to do new post, and then we're in here. Actually, there we go. Almost forgot my own setup. So in here we have a setup so you can see more explicitly what we have to account for. One thing that I didn't put on here was the comments object, partially because I don't know how that's going to look right now. I mentioned before that I'm going to be using a third-party library from Facebook to build out the comments, so I won't necessarily have to create that implementation myself. It's just kind of plug and play, so I don't know how exactly that is going to jump in there. So that's something that I'm okay with not doing right this very second, because I want to read a little bit more into the documentation on that. So once I go ahead and get ready to implement it on the front end, then I'll go ahead and tie it back together to the back end. But I just think it's a little weird to try to set it up now because I won't have it. Let's see. So we have this just about done, and the same thing over here. This is pretty much done. So I just wanted to show this again just so you can kind of see what we're trying to build, as opposed to just kind of looking and say, okay, I see a bunch of code on the screen, but how does that actually correlate? So we were here with the project, I'm sorry, posts, and now we're in the database. Click here, we're gonna go to this collection, and we're gonna click on posts. So we have 2 posts in here. So let's see if I can just grab one. And actually, let's take advantage of Postman and go to get posts. Oh, that's another thing we don't have in there. So right now we can get a specific post by an ID, but we can't just go ahead and get all of them. So let's go ahead and create that too while we're here, because I can't delete the post until I know the ID. So and it's really easy. We can just go in here, we're going to copy this, and then we're going to just drop that in right there. And then we're going to take this ID out of the parameters, so we're not going to send that, and we're going to change this. And actually, we don't even need this. We're just going to do find, and we're just going to drop off this, and we're just going to put find in there. And I believe that is all that we had to do. Let me save this one as well. Now that that's in there, let's see. We're going to say get all posts, and we're going to save that. And then now we're just going to do local host. Okay, I'm lazy. And I'm just going to put posts here. So now that we have that, I'm going to send this off, and we should get, yep, look at that. Boom, there we go. So we have this, we have 2 posts, and now I want to see if this thing will work with letting us delete a single post. So now we can go over to that delete many post thing we're looking for, and on the ID tag, we're going to throw a single post in there, and then we're going to fire that off. We got an error saying it's not expecting I in the JSON. Excuse me. So I'm almost certain it's because of something I did over here. So let's look here and see what is going on. So we have delete posts and request.body.id. So let's see. I almost want to say it's that ID object by itself. It's just like, hey, we got this and we can't get it. So either I screwed up somewhere with the underscore, or, but I don't think that's the case. So let me look at this again. Delete many, delete many. And then, because I don't see a character I, the only I can think about is the I on ID. So, oh, I see. So, I remember last time I was telling you guys that JSON is a string thing. So it has to look like this. And when you look at delete many, on the body for deleting from the projects, it has this I'm saying string, but it's just quotes because it's just JSON. It's not necessarily a string, because I believe JSON is ambiguous in typing. So now let's try this again, and it should work. Yep, there we go. So it found one, and one means deleted, and it tells us how many we deleted. So now we go back here and we refresh, and we've got it. So that's that. And now that as you can see now, it's not even difficult to get this thing set up. It takes a matter of a few seconds now, as opposed to in the beginning it took us a little longer, just because there was more overhead. We didn't know exactly what we were doing. So now that we do, we're like, all right, we got this. And then there's one more thing I want to see. I want to go in here and make sure that when we create our posts in our projects, that when they ask for the date started, we default that to a value, because I wanted to say I started it on a specific day. Like if I know I'm starting it, what's the word I'm trying to say? If I know I'm starting a project and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to put this in the database, and I open a ticket or something like that to say, hey, I'm starting a project, I want that to be defaulted to a value of a new date object. And I'm going to try to show you guys that if I can get an internet browser to pop up on the right screen. All right. Let's see, new window. There we go. And drop that thing open. And now we say mongoose. Let's see, mongoose default. Here we go. So just like I think we've done that before in the posts, I want to say in the posts. Nope, we don't even default it there. All right. Let's see. I keep clicking on the wrong window. So it should just be as easy as setting the string. Let's see if I can do default date. Oh, I forgot to say, oh, look at that. But where's the default? Let me see if I can do default. I'm just gonna search for that. And we have it in here in the API. Default. So I think you're supposed to be a raw type. So why am I getting an error here then? Oh yeah, I did semicolon, and that's not compatible. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use back in where is it? Posts. We're gonna say the date created is also going to be defaulted to the current date. And that should do that. Let me put this comma there. And now we have our default values. For this, I'm also going to default the status just because I want to make sure that if I create a project and maybe I don't think I'm going to write a blog and post it on the same day. That just sounds like a rush process, but maybe I will. So, I'll have the option to do that, if I wanted to. But by default, I'm going to set it to draft. So it'll be in draft mode by default. And then I don't think I need to default anything else. Just to make things easier for myself moving forward. I want to say, things that are kind of almost always going to be, current time, or the status is going to be very specific. There's no point in kind of holding that up, making yourself do extra work. So that's the beauty of coding. You don't do the same thing twice if you don't have to. You can just automate it. So we have that in there now. And let's see when we go ahead to create a post, right? So this time I'm not even going to put a date in here when I go to create one, because we already have it. We already have the date defaulted. So that'll be, even though we don't create it ourselves, it still meets the the setup that we said, that we say, hey, it's within the constraints because it has a value. And look at that. And then when we see the date, date created, there it is. So now the date's created and I don't even have to worry about it. And you see here that it uses this, this is the universal standard time. So it's got it down to, this is the year, this is the month, this is the day, this is the hour, and we're about 5 hours or so behind. So it's got that, and then 5 hours behind. So, or maybe it's 4 hours now. I don't know. But yeah, it's like you created it at 8:19 and 23 seconds and 357 milliseconds. So it's very specific. Granted, when I use it, I probably only want, I guess you'll want the time too. So if somebody says, somebody looks at a post I make the same day, they're like, hey, 1 hour ago, maybe not down to the milliseconds or the seconds, but that's that. So now we have our database set up. So one thing that I talked about yesterday was authentication. So with authentication, it's more so about, hey, who is authorized to go into my database and make changes to my stuff? Um, maybe anybody can read my stuff. Maybe anybody can read a blog, or anybody can a um, read a project. But if it's not finished, they shouldn't be reading it. And that's something that we have to put in there. And in order to do that, we actually have to create another model, because now we have to create a user model. And this is going to identify who our users are. So now let's go ahead and create const mongoose equals new, oh, not new, sorry, require mongoose. And then now we can say, I think it's const. So let me say const user equals user, no, mongoose, mongoose dot model dot, I think it's just that. And then do this, and model is user. And then now we put in our callback. And let me just verify this, because I haven't done this I haven't done this enough times to just know it off the back of my hand. But yep, so I guess maybe I have. And I'm gonna just go ahead and put this exports in here before I forget. Dot exports equals user. And so now we have our user in there, and it's exported, readily available for something to use it. So with our user, the user is going to have a, this is, what do we want to know about a user? We really only care about who's logging in. So we want the name. We want to know, and type is going to be string. And honestly, it's really just going to be me. So I don't really need to do this, but I'm going to do it just in case I do something else later with my website. It'll just be easier to update users rather than having to create a whole new user portal and try to figure out how to sync up all the authorization stuff. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm also going to say it is required, and I want to say, what else is there? We're taking that, we just need the name. It doesn't even have to be a full name, so I'll be very laxed on that. Then I'll say, let's go with, what else do we need? We need the user's email address. And say we need their email, because that's how they log in. So it'll be, type is also going to be a string. And then we need to say, that's also required. And then we need to put in a password. So the user has to create a password. And I know what you're thinking now. You're like, oh gosh, the password's going to just go right in. So it's going to be super easy to just get that. In terms of security, we can actually do this securely and store passwords in a database without having to worry about people hacking and getting your password and just logging into your stuff, because we can encrypt or encode our passwords, to store them in a database. And there's this way called one-way encryption, where you can only put data, you can send a password to it, and it can verify if it meets a specific code. If not, it won't send you, it's supposed to be this, it doesn't do any of that. So it's pretty secure, because it doesn't it doesn't expose your unique code to anybody else. So that's pretty cool. And then I can add little stuff like, member sense and, well, user sense, but I really don't even need all of that. I just need this. I just need the name, email, password, because it's just me going in, making content, and then just dropping it. So that's all I really need right now to get into my database and make these changes. So now that I have this up, I can save that, and then I'm going to go ahead to routers. Oh, actually, there is one thing. I can be very technical and say can create, can post, and you can do things like that. But the only thing I really need to do here is say I'm going to add another property on here and say is admin. And really what this means is maybe somewhere down the line I might have other people do stuff in my database and for my blog or for my projects for me, and I might not necessarily want them logging with my account information. So I might give them a user in my database. I might add them as an admin on my platform, and they'll be able to go in with their own credentials and log in. So the best thing, one of the ways I can do that is adding this admin thing on there, and this will just be a type boolean, and this is just be a true or false. Either you are an administrator or you're not. There's no in between here. And then I want the default value to be true. I mean, to be false. You don't want everybody just popping and being administrators. That'll be false. And I have to think of a way to activate that privilege, because if I create another user, I don't want them to just be able to pick to be an administrator. Maybe I'll have another portal where I can I can look at all the users and say, hey, this person can be administrator, this person can be an administrator, and not just directly create that and give that to them, because anybody can just sign up and say, yeah, I'm an administrator. I'll go ahead and make some content. So that's just something I'm thinking about now before I move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, and then now I have to go over to the routers and I have to create a user router as well. So let's do new file. I'm going to say user-router.js, and you can name these things anything you want, but I just think it should just be stuff that makes sense, so that way if somebody else has to read my code, they know what the hell is going on. Let's see. So now this is the router, so I think this is where I get into pulling in Express, and it's going to say require Express. I think there's like another way to do this when you're importing stuff. I think that the newest way to do it now is to import. Let's see, require versus import. And this would be, I guess it'd be node. So I think I don't even know which one's newer, but you see how long ago this was. So this is one way to do it, and then this is another way to do it. Importing modules using ES6 is like the newest up-to-date ECMAScript standard, something like that. Don't ask me now, I can't remember, but it's just some organization that pretty much standardizes all JavaScript code. So that's really all that is. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that there's an alternative for that. It just, one just says require, the other one imports it. And that's it there. I mean, I'm not gonna make this deeper than what it is. So I have that, and then what else do we know? We need to know about the user. So const user equals require now we do dot slash dot models slash user. So now we've created created the connection to the user. And before we dive into all of that stuff, let's go jump over into index.js and add the router for here. So now now we're registering our, our router. Jeez, my throat is going to dry out. I need to grab me a bottle of water. 1 second. All right, so now we're gonna say user router, and we're gonna drop that off there. And then now we need to go up here and import that because it doesn't even know what user router is as of right now. Require. I'm gonna do /user router. Oh, that's not right. So see, require routers. What is going on here? There we go. /routers/user router. And now we have that. The next thing is just going back and let me save this now. Actually, let me save all my files. And I think the problem is I didn't export the user router. So your module dot exports equals user. So now we've exported our user, and no mon is happy. So now when we go in to start creating our user, our routers, we can say, okay, now we know we're going to create that post request, and we're going to drop in our user. So we're going to say /user. And really at this point, do I ever want it to be /user? Or do I want it to be /admin? For right now, there's no point. There's really no. I want it to be separate. I want admin to launch a separate portal to get into the database. So I don't necessarily want it to be like, if I have users, then I'll create a separate login for them. So I just want to keep stuff separate. So that way I know my code knows what to deliver. This is supposed to be request response. And then create this arrow function, and then now we're down in here. So now we're gonna say so we're gonna do the same thing as before, right? We're gonna check the database to make sure that the user doesn't already exist. And if the user exists, we're not going to let you recreate it. So that's what we're going to do here. And I really haven't figured this out. How would you turn on and off the admin privileges? I would say that maybe that would I would just default to creating myself as an administrator. And then I would just remove that capability from any other user. And what will happen is I would have to go in and manually assign somebody as an administrator because I know that I am authorized. And I don't want to try to have like some kind of, I can always try to have some kind of like code that people need to know in order to get in and make themselves an administrator. But that's just more tedious. It's just easier this way. So I'm just gonna do that, and what'll happen is I'll create it once and then I'll just pull it. So and I'll show you what I mean is I'll go ahead and say then we need to do this const existing user equals user dot find by ID. Let's use email. Emails are unique. So we'll say find one, and we're gonna look at the email address. We're gonna look at email, and the reason why I'm using, like, again, emails are unique. There's no two email addresses that look alike. So I'm gonna do request dot body dot email. That's what we'll look for that. and then we'll say we got that, and then we'll say if existing user, we're going to say response dot status, and we're going to send that 409 response, and then that's how we're going to tell the user that this user already exists, kind of thing. And actually, I don't think I send anything. Just send that. And then the next thing is going to be return. Boom. And then the next thing is going to be if it doesn't, we're just going to save that. It needs to be another thing I didn't do was create the actual user. So it's const user equals post. Well, I think it's new user, right? Yep. New user, and then it'll be request dot body. So now we have our user. We create our user. And we see if that user already exists. If that user already exists, and I think I should be able to go here, I would just say user.email, because I want to pull that email off the user. And I don't know how I did it before, but I didn't think about was saying, hey, I already have it defined here, because I don't even think I use it until here. But let's find out. Then if that works, then I'll change my references in the other files, because I think it looks a lot better. So I have that, and then we have our constant for our user, and now we check it. If it doesn't exist, we're going to save that user. So we're going to do user dot save, and we're going to go ahead and drop in the user. And actually, this is supposed to be uppercase user, I believe. Nope, I was right. User dot save, and then we just send that information back to the user, and we say response dot send, and we'll status. We gotta send that 201 to say that something was created, and then we send that out, and we say we send the user that we just created. So now we have that in there, and then we have to catch any errors, and then this will be a 400 error, because it's just assumed that if the you're trying to create something or send something to the database and it doesn't work, then it's probably your fault. Not always, but it's probably your fault. So we have that. So let's go ahead and see. I knew I was forgetting something. Const router equals express dot router. And do I have to do the open and closing thing? Yep. And do the little. And now we have our user. So that looks happy. So now we go in here, make a request, and we say create user. So then now we do local host /3000/admin, and we're gonna go into the body, and we need to give our user a name, email, and a password. So we're saying name is Will. Oh, I never changed this to JSON. Name is going to be Will. Email is going to be will at email.com, and then the password is going to be testing 1 2 3. Well, 1 2 3, and I think that's all I needed. Oh yeah, is admin, and then we'll do is admin, and then that'll be true, and we should be able to just put that in raw, if I'm not mistaken. We'll find out in a second. So we send that off, and the fact that it's taking so long, I already know I messed up somewhere. So let me go ahead and see what I did wrong. So I think, yep, exported user is supposed to be router. So that's what that problem is. Alright, so our user should be in the database now that everything cleared up. Let me see if it's in there. If it's not, then I can easily just rerun it. Oh, I don't know what I just hit. Alright, so it's not there yet, so let's fire off that request again. So I think the error is, wait, is the database running? Yeah, it's running, and Nomon isn't even giving me an error. So I think I'm missing something. Either that or I gave it an extra field. So name, email, password is admin, and I did say that was a type boolean. So now I'm thinking, if it gave me a 404, oh, it's looking to see if the user is there, and then I said if existing user, you'll send that. Otherwise you're supposed to keep moving though. So what's the problem there? Let's go ahead and see. Oh geez, that's what I forgot. Okay. I never did this. Oh wait. So now you get to see a really good property here. It never had enough time to go in and look and even get down to say, hey, we didn't even get a chance to look in here, so we can't tell you if that user exists or not. And another thing I believe is that save is supposed to be awaited too, because that might take some time. And we can see what this gives off. And yeah, it's a document, it's a promise. So anytime there's a promise, you want to have a wait for that, just to make sure. So you see here, that's a response. You see here, response. So we are good to go there. Let me just look for post router and do the same thing. Oh, I have it there. User awaits user.save, and then await project.save. So let's save all of these, and we'll go and do this again. Alright, now I'm starting to think it's because it doesn't like my boolean. That's interesting. So find one. I think the issue is this email. The way I have that looked up. So let me go ahead and go back and do it the way that it's supposed to be, and I'll do request.body.email, and make sure I didn't have any typos with that. Find one, find one, and let's go. Still not happy. So now let's try it this time. We're getting that 404. So that 404 is telling me that the request to look into the database and see what's going on isn't there, and it could be because it doesn't exist yet. So let me make sure that when I set this thing up, I didn't skip a step. So let me go to post, and we have mongoose require mongoose, and that should be all I needed. In the user.js, we have our user, and we have an object defining what the user is. So all that's good. And then we did module dot exports. Actually, our colors are a little different here. See, this one's more green. But it seems like it's fine. So no, this isn't it. Yeah, see, that's green. User router, we export user. We export the router. So we got all that. So let me make sure back in index.js, all that's good to go. Yep, so that's good. So I'm thinking it's got to be the way I have this thing set up. So actually, let me take this await off. That might be it too, because I'm getting 404. I'm not even getting a 409. Actually, it could be the because I'm using admin/admin, and is there a space in here? All right, so let's try this. We're still getting it, and it's just with the lookup. So not found. And you see, it's kind of giving us its own error. Let me take it a step back. So when I looked at the user, let's go look at the post router. So the only thing that's different there is that this creation is outside of the request. So we have this user outside of here. And I don't think there's anything else we're supposed to have to go with this. Nope. Express router. That's all we needed. Express the router, got the user, request.body, request.body. We're using the body, we're using JSON. I spent all this time trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, and I never changed the request to be in the proper type. So it was looking to do a GET request when really we're trying to do a POST request. So that's really what our problem was. Now, it's no problem. We send that in, we get our 201. So we've got that. Now that's happy. So now that I have this, I'm trying to think of a way. Actually, let me just Google that really quick. How to create admin users in a database. Creating admin users There we go. Let's look at this. So here they create a user and some custom data and a role. So what they do is they give you an array of rows, and then you have some authentication restrictions. One way would be that when you create your user, that like I said, you give it that prompt to pass in you can give it like a unique key, and in order to be a administrator, you would have to pass that correct key in order to be an administrator. We create admin users database. Yeah, I'll worry about that later. It's not a big deal right now. So we look in our tables and we'll see, hey, we've got this user in here, and we've got it. So we got our user in there, and but one thing that you notice is that the email, we could literally put in any email right now, and that wouldn't cause any problems. So if we go back to the user model, and we can add a validator on here, and I believe that by default there is a email validation tool for us. Validate value, and we're going to say, I believe I did that right. Yep. Oh, I don't need the dots though. I don't need the colon. And we're going to validate that if this if value, if validators dot email. I forget. Let me download this thing. It's there's a validator on Mongoose. So validation. Before we get into the specifics, we want to know about the built-in validators that they have, and they have one for email, and I'm just looking to find that one. Email. There are two ways for promises. Let's see. Thought they had one. So we can create a custom validation for this. So and the only way we'd have to do that, we do that is we create our own validator, and what it'll be is we'll say, hey, wait, where's the create their validator at? So there are two ways for a promise basis. If the promise rejects, Mongoose assumes the validator failed. So this is how they created it here. Promise.resolve. They created the message, but they don't show you how to create them. So let's go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a custom validator, and I'll say if it doesn't meet a certain pattern, then we're not going to use that. Then we'll reject it. And the way we'll do that is we'll say So we'll say if value, so we'll say we're going to surround this in a not thing. So we're going to say if it doesn't do this, so if not value dot match, did they have this in I wonder if they have match in JavaScript. So I know how to set it up. I'm just trying to figure out which method I use to set it. Let's see, JavaScript match, and here we go. So sorry about that, lips got pretty dry. So actually what I want to do is I want to look at the subtype, schema types again before I dive into this email thing. I just wanted to see if they had a type for email. Doesn't seem to be the case. Just thought I used it before. Alright, enough of that. I keep saying that and I keep doing it. So I have one of those complexes, like I'll keep trying. So I'm just gonna warn you guys now. So we'll say we know that it's a string, but so we'll say if value dot match, and this is where I put these regex in, or regular expression is what they call it. And you can do it with quotes or quotations, or you can do it like this. I like to do it like this because it looks cool. And I want it to be any series of characters, and then I want it to have the at in here, and then it can be another series of characters, and then it'll be a dot, and then there'll be something else like .net, .org, .gov, anything of the sort. And in order to have this thing work, and really I can kind of do a little TypeScript in here. Well, I can't do it now because it doesn't, no, this, I'm not using a TypeScript extension, so I'm not going to cheat. There's just, I have to figure out how to get this thing to go. Let's see. So let's go. So I'm going to show you a website that I like to use a lot. Is regex 101, and what it does is it allows you to test your regular expression and see if it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a good expression. I'm going to say hot boy 2468 at gmail.com, right? And I need an expression that's going to catch all of that. So what I have to do is, actually it already has the vertical lines. So what I want to do is there's a catch all kind of character. So any non-space character. So actually email legal characters. So let's look at syntax. So we can have just about anything in our email. So I want to do, so you can do a regex any character, and look at that, another cheat sheet. I don't like the way this website looks. So yeah, I think you can do a, so it can be as long as the dot isn't the first or the last character, you're good to go. So you can do underscores in your email. You can have your funky symbols. I don't think you can put @ in there because I think that's what throws that off. So let me jump back here really quick. Because if you have in here, yeah, you can have these printable characters. So it can be any of these, and it can be any of the digits, and it can be a dot as long as it's not the first and the last. So we're going to create this regex to say it can be any character 0 to 9, A to Z, and uppercase A to Z. So now that we have that, I want to see if they have a regex expression for special characters. Regex special characters. And then one thing I missed here was that it has to start like this, and it can have so it can't start with a period or end with a period. So what you can do is you can put a period in here, and you see we've got it matching just about anything, and then it has to have this @ symbol here, and then it has to be followed by pretty much the same thing. This time I don't think you can have letters. Well, I don't think you can have numbers in there. So email structure was can the email, I don't need to call that, what's the last part? So let's go back to that Wikipedia page, because there's the local part, the format of an email address, so the domain, right? So let's look at the domain. The domain name part of the use has to conform to strict guidelines. So it must match the requirements for a host name, a list, yep, there we go. So it can be uppercase characters A to Z and or lowercase. The digits provided that the top level domain names are not all numeric. Hyphen, and as long as it's not the first or the last, and that is it. So it's and a max of 63 characters. So that's really important there. So let's start with that part. So we're gonna say 0 to 9, A to Z, A to Z, capital Z, and then we're gonna say that it can have a or was it hyphen? I believe it is, and that is it. And it can be a max length of and it can have either 1 and a length up to 63 characters. So now we say that's what that does. It can have up to 63 of those. Actually, let me make this a group. There we go. And just so I haven't exactly blew it. Yeah, let me see. Regex cheat sheet. And then we need this cheat sheet just to get all of the different stuff. So here we want to say that it can have special characters. The characters, so these are the special characters that we want here. So let's see if they have one for special characters. Special characters have special meanings and ranges, so they must be escaped with something to catch them. What I want to do is have something that is here. See if anything catches that. Or actually, I'll just copy from the list. We can do that. So you can put all of these special characters like this. These things are allowed, and they even allow you to put in some space and special characters like these with restrictions. They are only allowed inside a quoted string as described in the paragraph below, and in addition a backslash or double quote must be preceded by a backslash. So comments are allowed with parentheses. Wait, I don't think this is a part of the email. Note that some email servers won't mark out recognition of local parts. Typical characters, blah blah blah. It might end up in the same one. So yeah, this is what the limitations are. Nothing else. If quoted, it may contain a space, horizontal tab, except backslash. Yeah. Okay, so for the most part, nobody's email has spaces and stuff like that in it. So I'm not really going to account for that. So this regex isn't going to be perfect for all emails. I mean, I'll have to do a little bit more research into it, but this is pretty much it. And what these brackets do that I have there, they mean they just say that what's the word I'm looking for? That a user can. I'm sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained at the second. They just say that these slashes escaped other characters. So what I want to do is modify this range. So let me go back to my cheat sheet here, and I need to say between 1, so it's between 0 and so that's what I thought I had there, but it didn't seem to bite because it says my group was off. So let me try this again. So character range is out of order, so let me go with 1 to 63. Yeah, 163 because I gotta have at least 1. If I do 62, if I do just 1, yeah, that's fine. Your character range is out of order. So I think what happened is it's just saying that this range that I had initially was out of order here. So now it interpreted that Z as something else. See, now it's fine. And now I didn't need this. Or actually, if I took that out, it should still be fine. And now we can see here, we have 0 to 9, A to Z, that, and it happens again. And then we have all the characters that are matches. So match the same character in the list, all of that. So now we have all of those special characters in there. And now we have we escaped that. So now this is what our thing is saying. And so far so good. Our email matches that. And we need to have exactly one of these @ symbols in here, right there, before we do that. And then this @ has to be followed by a period, and then we need to have our final group. So far so good. And actually I believe this stuff was just for the local part of the email. I know some of this stuff is acceptable in the domain part, but I just want to get one part at a time. And this range is off, so let me fix that. And saving, oh, there's just nothing in there. That's fine. So now we got that going, because we want to say this is the start of the expression. It has to start with anything in here, and it can be followed by any let me take that off right now. So it's saying here, I think the explanation, this quantifier says it can have 0 or more of something. So that's what this period was. You're gonna have 0 or more periods as long as it's not the first character. Actually, it can't be the last character either. Well, yeah, it can't be the first or the last. So what we can say is we can do a plus where you have to have at least one there, and then we do this, copy that thing, and then put it back here, and then you gotta have at least one of those and at least one of these if you're gonna have this period in there. So that's what that is doing there, and then it matches up to everything we had up to the @Gmail. So now when we get to the .com part, that, or the see, here we go here. So these are the domains that we can use. So all of this is included in the domain. So now when we look at these domains, they have a dot in there. So we gotta say a dot. It's gotta be somewhere in there to show that they have that. So what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna copy my regex and put it there again. I just want to see if there's a way to look at the dot to see if there's a limitation of how long it can be. So it has the host, and then the rule known as letters, digits, hyphen, in addition to the domain surrounded by square brackets. So you can do stuff like this. So we don't care about any of that, but we just want that .com stuff. So I guess with that, we just give it any character and we put a dot there, because I guess the number of extensions is probably pretty big. But I'd assume that it would be a number of, I'm sorry, it's kind of spaced out there. So I'm going to copy this. Well, I'm actually grouping this into making this a group. So and you see down, well, you can't see it, you saw the group one appear on the screen. It'll be right back in a second. And this has a limitation to 64 characters. So that's what that does there. I just saw here where they're telling us why the email didn't work, because it can't be longer than 64 characters, and the domain part can't be longer than 63. So that's how we check that. And what else are we checking? Yep, the format of an email address with a local part may be up to 64 octets long, and the domain may have a maximum of 255. So let me fix that. 255. And if you don't want to do this yourself, you can always Google around, go on the internet and find something as well. I just prefer the practice. And I'm just going to say, you know what, that last part is either going to be a 0 through 9 or A to Z kind of thing. Anything else is more likely going to be spam. And now, I think I have ran into a problem. So this is one group. I can take that plus off now. And then there's going to be exactly one @ symbol. And then we have our second group here. And that's where we have our dot. Catastrophic backtracking has been detected in the execution. Yeah, so this seems probably getting out of hand. But this is all how it goes. Because I can maybe break this up into be one group here, and then another group here, so that way it's a little bit easier for the code to detect it. It seems like that helped it. And actually, this can be nested into one big group. See that? Capturing group. So it's a capturing group, then it nests another capturing group. But we don't really need to do all that. Let's just make this one group. There we go. And I think it's trying to show me here what's missing. And I want to escape this because I don't want that to be for any character. Unmatched parentheses. Where is that? Oh, I see it here. So now we're back on track. And then that @ symbol. What's happening if I take this off? So it seems like it's probably this dot that's screwing us up. Maybe not. And then this is one more, 0 more limitations. 1 and unlimited limitations. And this one has to have 1 or unlimited. And then when we get to our @ we have our group here, and then we have our group here. And then we need to have at least one of those. And it seems like a repeated capturing group. Put a capturing group around the repeated group to capture all iterations. So that's what I did. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Google the regex for email. Email regex. So yeah, I guess there's no perfect way to do it, but somebody came up with the expression for the regex expression for an email. Year value of content, so it will be. Oh, let's pause my app lock for a second. And I want one for the email. And this is it. So I was pretty off. So when I go over here to my email and I put this in, it's gonna look pretty funky. Actually they already gave me those two, so let me take this out and drop that in there. And now you see it's red, it's got all this cool looking, it's got a cool look to it. And so if it doesn't match that, we're gonna throw an error. If I can find the end of this thing. You're gonna say throw error invalid email address. So now I can make sure this works. I can let me try an email that shouldn't work. Let me just take my @ symbol out. And do will2, and we'll try this. Make sure I save my changes. Then send that off. Let me check this validation. Make sure I didn't miss anything in the docs. So then so when we're doing our custom validators, we say validator function return so here we go here. So it's a little bit more to this, it seems like, and we just gotta read. So validator function or hash description option describing options. Validator function returns undefined or truthy value. Validation succeeds, it returns falsely or undefined, except undefined, or throws an error, it fails. You have a message that you can put on there, and we have a props parameter. If true, Mongo should pass the validator properties object with the validator function method. So let's not use that. And then they have a type for the validation. So here we go. Let's look at this example. So it's creating the validator there. Make sure every value is equal to something. Okay. And then that's how you do that. You just pass in the validator that you created. Yeah. And then we can create a custom one, it seems like. So custom is validator, and you create a message. And there we go there. Adding many validators at the same time, we can do that as well. So let me try this. We're gonna do const email validator. Actually, I think there's an email validator extension. So email validator npm. Save myself a bunch of time with this. So this has 411,000 weekly downloads. So I think that one's safe, but try not to look, just grab the first one and see. So I just assume, so this one has 1, you can see the difference. So nobody's probably using that thing. When we look at another one, just give me 1 second. I apologize for that. Duty calls. But let's get back to where we left off. So, next thing we got going on is, how did I show that up? I launched the debugger. I did not want to do that. Get back to the terminal. And let me figure out what I did. I think that's what I did. And actually, I'm just going to undo all of this stuff here with the validate. And you'll see in a second why I did that. Actually, let me just pull it all that out for it now. Save that. That should fix that. And then now, let's go back to that validators we were looking at. npm validator. Wait, npm. Oh wait, yeah, they do have an email validator. So this one is pretty big library. This is actually what I was looking for initially. So this thing validates your email for you, so you don't have to worry about doing all the regex. And this is pretty good because it gives you a lot more flexibility for some other stuff too. So before I jump in and do this, let's install this thing. So let's figure out what this thing is. It should just be npm install validators. I just hate when they don't tell you explicitly. Oh, yep, there it is right there. Reading is fundamental. So I'll stop nomon for a second and clear my terminal, I thought. And then we're going to do npm install validator. And I hope I have the right spelling. And spelling is not my strong suit, so I'm actually just going to copy this. And then we drop that in there. And now we've got that. So now that we have that, we can actually see when we go to our package.json, it's over here with the rest of our dependencies. So now that we have that, we can go back to our email, and now we can do validators. Actually, we have to require this new validation that we pulled in. So now, say const validator. I don't know what that other spelling was. Equals require validator. So now we've got that validator. So now a cool thing is we can go here, and when we do our validation, we have a whole, it's a whole lot cleaner. So we'll say if not validator dot is is it email? So we've got that. So we say validator dot is email, and then we pass in the value that we want. So we say validator dot is email. I thought it would just show up, really. So before I do that, I want to say value dot validator dot is. Yeah, I think it's just it didn't pick up what's going on. So I can always check when I see the dot on there. So validator dot is email, and then we pass in the value. So yeah, it just didn't catch it immediately. So that's fine. So now that we have that in there, we can just say if that, we're going to throw an error, and boom, invalid email. So look how clean that is. It's a comparison to what we were trying to do with creating our own regular expression. So we have a cleaner setup that looks good, and what we do now is I want to look back in Mongoose to make sure that we threw the proper error. Since we're not creating the custom validation anymore, we can just check and just look at to see the regular implementation for it. See, for instance, what they did here. I guess it's saying this is the message, and that's how they set the structure up. So that's all fine and dandy. I'll just go ahead and save this, and then we should be able to see what's going on when I do this again. So it didn't give us a response, and I think the problem with this is that I didn't give the I don't think I've handled how to do this, with throwing errors from the validation. Actually, no, I lied. Because we have validation on something else, don't we? Thought we did. Yeah, we validated this. So this should work. And I know why. If so value, we have if validator that is email, we're going to throw an exception. So it's forgot to do if it's not an email to throw the problem. And here we go. Oh, no terminal. Oh, no, shit. Stop. And there we go. CLS, npm, and we're going to run dev. And module not found. So it can't find user router. Am I not exporting it? Let's see. Oh, it can't find validator. What do you mean can't find validator? See, I knew I spelled something wrong. Let me go back to this npm thing. So we did install it, and let me just copy this. More than likely I spelled it wrong. And drop that there. Try this bad boy again. So I'll do Control C. We're gonna stop that in CLS, and we are back. And it still can't find validator. I'm a little confused because we do have validator here. So I don't know why that is. Maybe I need to require validator somewhere else to get it into the project, but I don't think that's the case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my older project and see how I have it set up in there. So let's go check over here. I haven't really done anything different. Let's go deeper into this and let's look at the user router. Does this need it? Nope. Does. So we have it there. So maybe I think I have something misspelled. Yep. Validate. So it should be validate, not validator. And I think that's what the problem was. So I just saved. There we go. So it's still not happy. User router index.js. So I'm just gonna Control C it to just let it refresh itself and let that go. Oh gosh, who knew validation would be such a hard time? Phrasing. Let's see. Am I missing any commas here? Same pattern there. We throw in errors. We get the string for our error. I'm going to take that out and see if that is helping with anything. Alright, I am running ideas. Let's see. Validate value, and then we did if. So let's run through this. If not validator, that is email. I don't think it has a problem with that. And actually, it should show us which line it's on, if we're lucky anyway. Cannot find module validator. So this is a very explicit thing going on here. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, because it seems like it's saying it can't find the validator at all. And this doesn't make sense, at least to me. So we pull dollars out, and when I look at the hierarchy, it seems to be working. It's type string, and we have our thing going here. Let's see. Let's see if I only want to pull out the specific validator that we want. So this is another sneaky syntax here. So now I can take is email from validator. So now I should just be able to go and do this. I shouldn't have to do a dot. I'm wondering, I just want to see what's going to make it break. If the is email thing makes it break, then I know at least where the problem is. So yeah, it's really about this validator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install it again, because maybe when I went to go run that installation, it could have caused it to have some issues. So I'm just going to run that installation again, just to make sure that's not the reason why. And we're good there, so let's do CLS, and then we're going to try this thing again. Yeah, see, now we're not having any problems. And I think that's what it was when I ran that thing before. It just had an issue with looking it up, because we maybe deleted a file or two, and it had no idea how to find it. So you see that, wait, we shouldn't be able to do this. I am messing up. So let's do, now we want the whole thing, because Validator, because something is not right. So let's do this. Up, here we go. Unhandled promise, user validation failed, invalid email. And validation error, unhandled promise rejection. Oh, that's what it is. This error originated either by throwing inside of an instant function without a catch block, or by rejecting a promise which was not handled with a catch. Unhandled promise rejections are depreciated in future. Promise rejections that are not handled would terminate the Node.js process with a non-zero exit code. So that is that. But the weird thing is, if I remember correctly, I want to say toast. I want to say something, see if maybe I wasn't paying attention to my validations, and maybe this slipped by me. Yeah, so this one works. So I have a validation error on that one. Maybe I'm missing a message or something. So let me go compare it to our post. So when I validate that, if yeah, we throw an error. I'm throwing an error. Throw. It's very possible that well, I don't know. So let me go back and see what else the docs have for say for this. Actually, let me go ahead and try this again. And what I'm going to do is I want to see what the error message is looking like again. So that way, it seems like I'm not getting any error message this time. But there's only one error, one user here, which is pretty weird. Pretty weird. It's not letting it go through, but I think it's because I'm not handling it. That's what this that's what VS Code is upset about. So not VS Code, Node.js. So what I want to do is I want to see how I handled this in this router. So what I think we did here is nope, I didn't even try it. So maybe this one wasn't fully set up. That's the only way this can work. Or maybe let me check one more thing in this. It could be very odd that maybe the catch block is off, but that doesn't seem to be right either. So I think I need to have some middleware here to catch this rejection. That could possibly be it. And let me look at the difference between this one and another one that has the same thing. So let me look at the post router, and that one actually sends the error out. Do I actually do that in the user router? And I do. So it's 409. I have my 409 in the post router. We send out the error there. So let me put an error in this place here and see if that doesn't fix my problem. Nope. So let me dig into this a little bit more. So I am missing a big picture here. It's unhandled promise rejection. User validation failed, invalid email. So oh, I see. I'm throwing an error, but I'm not handling it somehow. So how do they want me to handle this? I would have thought that so let me look at how they do it in Mongoose. That's probably a better way to tackle this. So go into Mongoose and look at the validation that they have, and we already see when they have that error in there. So I just need to find a way to handle the rejected stuff. So it's not too specific here. So only thing I know is that I had a validation error, and it tells us that the email failed. Let's just copy this and see what happens, because I'm almost certain that this probably happened to somebody else. And then you can do Control-Shift-C, and then we jump into the internet, and we look into the error. Boom. And we can look here and see somebody else had the same exact problem. So so we can look here and we can figure out what's going on. And then they use the validation here, but that didn't work. Reason behind error. Will not use before saving the user and check the value. If mobile is or undefined, not convertible to number or will escape from the object. Okay, so one thing I need to do, we need to figure out how to tell Mongoose that if something doesn't, if it's not valid, we need to handle that, and we have to handle that somewhere in the validation. So let me look into the unique option is not a validator. Okay, so custom validators. So we put our validation in here, we ran our function, and we get our thing going there. So I think what we also have to do is add in the message. So let's say message, right? So we're gonna go out and we're gonna get that message because we're in the validate spot. Actually, honestly, I thought this was enough because it works in here, but I think because we're using this validator, that might be what's happening too. So we got this, so then we say, now that we threw the error, we have to handle it. Actually, we can say this. Instead of doing is, we'll say try. We'll try to validate it. And if we catch it, yeah, I think that's a better way to do this. We'll try to do this. So we'll keep it in try block. So we'll say if validator, boom, 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 and we'll throw that. And then if we end up throwing that, we'll say we need to catch it, and we'll say error, and then we'll just return the error. And let's see if that cleaned that up. And then this goes here, and then this lines with the validation. So wait, where's this come from? There's this line up with. Alright, perfect. Now code is looking good. Now let's try this thing again. So our code hasn't said anything. Let me just verify this again. There we go. Now we're getting something. And then if I go over to the terminal, it is happy. Let me see, e dot message, I think is what it would be. Let's see if it recognized that. Throw error. I really wanted to get the error message from here. So let me see if I can go down here and then just say return that. Actually, how do they do it up top in Mongoose? So I guess it does have to be a message in here to tell it what to do, because I'm not seeing anywhere else for that to go. Two ways from. So then let me just create another property in here, the same message, because I'm very I'm curious about how this thing goes out. So we have this, and then within this object, I guess we say message. Well, no. Actually, this is the only way I can think of doing it, with the try catch block. Oh, seems like I lost it. And that is okay. And we say turn. This is what we're going to return. And you say a invalid email dog. So now you tell them that they got to do this again. And this needs to be nested. That's what's going on there. There we go. And the one thing I didn't pay attention to was that one, I threw an error. The other one, I wonder if I returned an error. Nope, throw. So I think it might just be something with the way that this validation is set up here. But that's fine. We've got it. It's working. We're making some progress. Now we're getting that 400. So that is fine for now. But I really want to get that error message out, so I'm going to keep trying to play around with this until I get it. Again, I told you guys before, I'm that guy. You know, I need my stuff to return to me what it's supposed to return. So let's see here. Let's go with this message here. Let's try this message. So we got the validator, and let's do a comma. So we might be able to get away with this if we take this stuff out. Yeah, geez, where am I working right now? Oh, that's why. Take all this back out, and then after we have that, I think you can do the message on the validator, if I'm not mistaken. So it has the function that returns something, and then that is where it gets the error. It's just this documentation is a little confusing to me, because this is, okay, let me see if I can follow this. This is the schema. This is string, and it's validate, it's function v, and it's checking if this matches that, and then if it doesn't, it's going to give this is not a valid phone number. So these are just errors that go with that. So let me try this. I would say we're going to return out of that instead. And let's say we're gonna return false, because that's all it's doing anyway. And then once we jump out of here, we're gonna do comma, we're gonna say message, and then the message is invalid email. And that seems to do the trick. So let's try that and see what happens. Oh gosh. Let's see. Let me see. I'm gonna throw the error. And then try this again. Because I want this to give me the error. That's what I want. And if it doesn't give me the error, then I have to find another way around it. So one thing is that the only thing I did here was that I assumed, actually I think that's what I'm missing now, is some middleware. Because when I throw these, when I create these problems, there is more than likely a third party that is supposed to help out with this stuff. Asynchronous post hooks. So if your post hook function takes at least 2 parameters, one goes to scenes. So let's look at this. So one option is it would say, hey, if we are, look at that, there we go, save validate hook. The save function triggers validate hooks. Because Mongoose has a built-in pre-save hook that calls validate, this means that all pre-validate and post-validate hooks get called before the pre-save hooks. That's not what we're worried about. Error handling, there we go. Middleware execution never stops the first time it goes next with an error. However, there is a special kind of post-middleware called error handling middleware that executes specifically when an error occurs. Error handling middleware is used for reporting errors and making error messages. Error handling middleware is defined as middleware that takes on one extra parameter, the error that occurred as the first parameter to the function. Error handling middleware can transform the error however you want. So here they have a schema, and then they're trying to post, and they're tapping into all of that. Yeah, I can't really read this, so let me go back to that thread that I found on Stack Exchange. Hopefully I still have my valid, yep, there we go. Here we go. I love the internet. What I'm trying to say, creating use document, I'm getting validation despite so this is the error that they're getting. But for me, I don't have that flexibility, because I think what's really supposed to happen is that when I go in here, when we throw that error, instead of that, it's supposed to be maybe return response dot send. Well, yeah, it doesn't know anything about the response. So actually, middleware is going to be the next section of this series, because I'm going to be diving into some of the authorization stuff and then authentication, and really that's going to be a big section, because we're going to start taking these models and we're going to expand on them to make them much bigger. And just so you guys can see what I mean, let me see if I can do something here. User dot schema dot let's see here. So I do forget a little bit about how some of this stuff works, but I'll read up on that over the weekend, and that'll be how we set up for next week. So but I don't want to leave with this unsolved, so we're definitely going to solve this before I check out from this. So we're going to return, so we're going to, let's see, we're going to throw the error. So we're going to try, catch, and then try. Let's see, validator, email validators, and I want to see error handling. So validator dot is email error handling mongoose. There we go. Function username return validator dot chat not empty. So then and this is how it goes pretty much. Using the mongoose validator. So however, node validator provides its own error message. If I use the mongoose validator, see, I think this is another npm module. And it uses kind of the same thing. Validator, and this is the message here. But I'm stubborn, so I want it to be solved in the way that makes sense to me. So you have some of these pre-setups, new validation error. Yeah, see, stuff that I can't even understand. So let me see. Error handling. Let's try that. Validate input and express validator. So there's a lot of different validators out here. So you gotta be careful where you're getting your stuff from. And I realized with searching, less is more. Validate mongoose validation errors. That's what I check for. Because in the response, it's really, like I said, what I know the problem is right now is that I have to create a middleware to tap into this validation and excuse me, and that's what's going to actually return the message and stuff like that. So I'll just set it up like this for now, because I want to at least come out of this with something. And what we'll have to do is we'll have to modify this stuff later, at a later date. So that'll be next week's journey. We'll be tapping into the middleware, and we'll see how the middleware helps us out with a lot of this data flow. Because right now we're not getting anything. So this should be a, let me see if I did something like this. If I can create an error object, and nope, let me see if I did message. Oh, maybe that will work. constructor. Yeah, so that's probably as best as it's going to be right there. So let me see if I can do e.get. Let me see Mongo's. Let me see JavaScript error object, and just see if we can get off of that. We want to see what we can get from this thing. What are some properties on this? Maybe we can get the message or something. There we go. So we've got the error here. And then what are some properties? So it does have a message. So when I try to send out the message, so is that a property or an, so let's do turn e.message and see what happens. Might even give us an error before we start. So it didn't pass the message back. Again, right now the way we have it set up, when for some reason we're able to do it with the kind of custom validator that we had. When we went here, we took the value and we returned something from there. I don't know why exactly it was more complicated this go around, but that's something I can look into. And I just think it's that this stuff is a little bit more complex. Like maybe this is a promise. So if we go into the docs, we can probably see that maybe this is a promise, and that's what's causing some of these issues. But there's no way to be sure. And then I guess these are all the available validators that they have. This is a sanitizer that kind of removes pieces of data before you even get into it. And that's really it. That's all I can do, at least for right now, until I tap into this and hijack it a little bit more. So yeah, I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Actually, no, I'm not gonna wrap it up just yet because I don't think I added in the delete. So I'll go ahead and finish wrapping up this by adding the rest of the methods that we need. And I'll go a little fast with this one just because we already know what we're trying to do. So we do get, we're gonna get the user. We'll do admin, and this will be a get at this point. So it'll be async request body, and we're just gonna drop these endpoints in. So then we just need to do try to find a user by ID. So we're going to do try const user equals await user dot find by await user dot find by ID, and we're going to pass in the ID. It's going to come from the request dot params dot ID, and then we're going to say that if there's not, so we say if there's not a, wait, what am I doing? If there's not a user, then we'll return a different response. Response dot status, there's a 404 because it doesn't exist, and then we'll send that back. Say, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. Otherwise, we're going to do response dot send, and we're going to give them what they're looking for. We're going to give them the user. And outside of that, we're going to catch any errors that come, and we are going to say, hey buddy, here you go, response dot status 500, and then we're going to send that out. So now we go ahead and test this. We're going to Postman request, and we're going to say get user. I really should be get admin user, but you know, oh well. Doing local host 3000, and we do /admin, and we've got our get on there already. So I think that's all we actually have to do. Oh, actually, we have to get the ID. Luckily, we have some in the database already. So it seems like we were able to sneak one in there. Yeah, so it did actually get in there. So let's actually delete this one because we don't want this in there anyway. And we give it the ID. And we go ahead and set that one off. And we are getting an error. So we're in the database. We're looking, say, I see you. But however, our admin does not want to see them. So let's see if I screwed something up, which is usually the case. So /admin localhost 3000 /admin, and we got the ID on there. There we go. And let's send that. Oh, did it finish loading? Alright, wait. That is why we were in the wrong place. And that'll do that. So we get here, drop in the proper ID now. We should be on to the money. There we go. So we got that user back. Good. So now we're going to go in and we're going to make our update tag. So actually, before we do that, we're going to get all the users. Tag it /admin, and let's get all the users. And now we're going to do our same thing. We're going to set up our async callback function, response, request, response, and then we're going to send this out. And then we're going to say try const users, because now it's plural. So await user dot find, and at this point we're just getting all of them, so we don't care. So we're doing get all of them. We say, hey, if there's nobody here, if not users, response dot return response dot status 404, and we send that off. And then the next thing we have to do, we do response dot send out the users. And now lastly, we're going to catch any errors, and we're going to send them. Since we're trying to look something up, it's going to be a 500 error, and we're going to send that off. And now when we jump down into Postman, let's create another one. I think I already have it ready. Yeah, look at that. Local host 3000 / admin, and that is all we need. And we drop that in there. I'm almost certain it's because of something that I didn't save. And there we go, we see our 2 users. So now we already know next we're going to do patch. So then we do local host 3000, and we're going to admin, and we're going to drop in an ID. Hopefully still have that ID there. So got that, and now we're back into our user router. So now we're going to do router.patch to update that, and we got our admin in there, and that is all we need. Oh nope, we need the ID, and we got that. So now we do our async function callback, and it's going to be request response, and then we have our callback. So now we're in a callback loop. So we're going to try, then we do const user equals await user dot find by ID, and then we say we give it the ID, which is going to be request dot params dot ID, and then now we say if there's not a user, we are going to return out of this, and then we're going to say response dot status 404 because that user doesn't exist, and then we're going to send that out to the user. And so you see it's a real repetitive pattern. I mean, it's you look it up, see if it's there. If it's not, you send out an error, and if it's there, you send out what you're looking for. And that's really it. So now we get this catch, we get our error here, and then we got that, and now we send this out as well. So we do response status. Again, in this case, it's a 400 error because we're trying to change something. And actually, I like about this here is find by ID and update, and we have to pass that in, and what we're changing is going to be request dot body, and then we have to add in some of these extra properties, which I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'm just going to steal from over here. And I'm going to drop this in here, and there we go. So we've got that fixed up. I'm seeing a red dot. Maybe it's because I deleted stuff. Something is wrong. Oh, I never finished. So there we go. Everything's happy. So now we can make our patch here. So we can go into the body, and I'm just going to change the email because that's the only thing I can remember off the top of my head. For that email, and then we're going to say the email is going to be 12345@email.com. Hopefully I don't run into my validator. Seems like I did either that or I didn't save. Excuse me. I'm going to assume that I probably ran into my validator. So let me try this. Example at email.com. 404 means to look up. So let me try to change the ID to this one and put that here. Oh, I see, it was the double slash. There we go. So we were able to change that, and you see the new email there. And when we check our users, the new email is there. So that is all good. Next thing we have to do is our delete operations. And as you remember before, The delete is going to be pretty easy because we already know that we can just do a bash delete. So you can just do /admin, and now we can delete. So that /admin is actually going to save us a lot because now we know we don't have to put much effort into deleting stuff because it's already there. So the only thing we have to do is give it a payload to tell it which IDs we want to delete. And then we give it that, and then the ID is also going to be a string, and that is that. So this will be saved here, but we still have to go ahead and configure it up over here. So now we're back in our router. So now we do router dot delete, and then we go and say /admin/ we don't even need anything else, comma async, and then now we do our request response, and then here we go. And then we're going to try to first find, so we're going to say const, actually no, that is not what we're doing here. This time, yeah, that's what we're doing, const users equals await user dot delete many, and then we can say underscore ID, and that is going to be request dot body dot ID, and that should be it. If there's no users, then we just say response dot return response dot status, and we're going to send that 404, and then we're going to send that off, and then otherwise we're going to say response dot send users. I think that's how that went. Yep, that's how that goes. And then we're just going to catch any errors that could have resulted from that. So we're going to catch and say, hey, if there is an error, good luck. Response dot status 500 dot send, and we send that, and we are good. So save, and we're good there. And now when we go and send this off, we should be good to go. And there we go. That's our response here. So now that we've got that, we've updated our database. We're good to go. We've got the users in there, and when we come back, we'll go over the well, first I'll fix this validation message to figure out what's going on, and we're going to start getting into some middleware so that way we can validate our information, but we can also start working with our authorization and authentication. So that is going to start getting a little heavy, but once we have that, we will be officially done with the backend code, and we'll be ready to move on to the next part. At some point, I'll go ahead and set up that S3 server to handle images and things like that. I just haven't gotten around to it yet because I won't see them anyway. So that'll be to be continued next week. So I'll be keeping the stream going at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to keep doing this Monday through Friday until this project is done. So keep coming, ask questions, shoot me messages, reach out to me through any social media platform, and I'll do my best to assist you guys. I'll do my best to do a little bit more on the setup in terms of making this experience a little bit more entertaining. So I appreciate you guys for sticking it out so far. yeah, I mean, this is really exciting stuff for me because I learned a lot just from doing this, and I hope that this is something that can help anybody else that's going through this process. So yeah, I'll cut it here, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.